Is it some cosmic coincidence that 22 is our 22nd episode reviewed in the second year I've been covering this series, and it's a part of the show's second season? Sounds like something that could only happen in, well, we'll get to that later. Liz Powell is a professional dancer who's been hospitalized for exhaustion. She begins having recurring nightmares where Powell approaches the morgue, marked as room number 22, in the basement of the hospital, where a nurse grimly greets her with ominous words.
Room for one more, honey.
After several more days of rest, she's released from the hospital and prepares to get on a flight to Miami. But once at the airport, Liz starts to feel an all too familiar set of emotions. 22 was written by Rod Serling, but based on an anecdote from a 1944 anthology called Famous Ghost Stories, edited by Bennett Cerf. That anecdote was based on a 1906 short story called The Bus-Conductor by E.F. Benson, so there's some history behind this premise. Serling kept the main idea, but changed just about everything else around it. Honestly, it feels quite a bit like Season 1's Perchance to Dream. That was the first episode written by Charles Beaumont and featured a similar-ish concept that saw our main character seeking treatment for the intensity of his dreams. I'd say Perchance to Dream was executed better, but there are things to like about this one. It was the last episode directed by Jack Smite, and while it's not his best, see Season 1's The Lonely for his greatest Twilight Zone work, it's not what I would call bad, although he didn't seem to think highly of 22. Smite would later comment about how he didn't believe it had the quality of some of the other episodes he directed. This was another of the productions that were forced to use videotape instead of film to save money, but you can see the team tried to still give this story the drama it needed. Heavy shadows and some fun effects were used appropriately to raise it up a few notches. Barbara Nichols as Liz Powell turns in a solid performance. She reacts believably to the more horrific scenes and always feels on edge when she's talking to her manager or doctor. Speaking of which, Fred Wayne as Barney is fine, but those glasses are hilarious. Must have been very stylish in the early 60s. The Doctor, played by Jonathan Harris, is one of the weaker parts of the episode. Every line he delivers and expression his face crinkles into would give Bela Lugosi's Dracula a run for his money.
Remember about tonight, Miss Powell. Now relax. Get to sleep.
He's played up to be creepy in his overall presence when talking about Liz's nightmares, but also when he gives her compliments on her appearance and job as a dancer.
You make an old doctor wish he were a young intern.
The next time I see you, I'll be at a ringside table, and I'd appreciate a subtle wink.
It just feels like way too much for a character that has little to no effect on where this episode was going. I understand they may have been trying to throw the audience off by giving this character an aura of darkness or dreamlike exaggeration, but it's more distracting than anything else. Plus, he looks like Harvey Keitel, which makes me wish we had him in one of these episodes, and of course, that never happened. The morgue nurse is played well by Arlene Martell. She had another small role in the episode What You Need and pulls off her famous line here perfectly. Her blank but menacing expression is appropriately unnerving.
Room for one more, honey.
When Liz gets to the airport, she experiences the same sense of doom felt in her dream. She tries to shake it off and goes to enter the plane, where she's greeted by a familiar face.
Room for one more, honey.
Powell runs off terrified, only to see the plane explode in midair upon taking flight. More disturbed than ever, Liz's pained expression ends the episode. According to Mark Zickery's The Twilight Zone companion book, the explosion of the plane was done by rigging explosives to a model hanging from a wire. Unfortunately, the videotape used back then creates darkened artifacts around bright images, and the fiery demise of the aircraft is a victim of this. 22 isn't a great installment of the series, but the line, "Room for one more, honey," is decently well known to fans of the show. Plus, there are a few shots and other elements to be enjoyed. I'd give this one a soft recommendation, but it's not essential by any means. I suppose there will always be room for one more in a future screening that always takes place at 2/22 on the 22nd of February every year in the Twilight Zone.